Hi, I'm Paweł Spychalski and today let's talk about the EmuFlight Dynamic Rates. But before we begin, do you know this is not my only YouTube channel? I have the second channel called the PS After Hours with a slightly different type of the content. Go there, check it out, maybe you will like it and become my subscriber over there as well. But dynamic rates. Dynamic rates in the EmuFlight is a very interesting approach to modify the stick feeling of the quadcopter, of the drone. Dynamic rates have nothing to do with the stabilization, have nothing to do with the PID loop, have nothing to do of how the filtering of the gyro and the PID controller and the mixer and the outputs are working. The rate dynamics are, like I mentioned, a very creative way to modify the input from the sticks. Because the traditional way is you take the stick of the input, you apply expo, you convert this to degrees per second, maybe apply second expo or something like that, and feed it to the PID controller. This is how the Betaflight, ArduPilot, iNav, D-Ronin, everything is working. Just translate the stick position directly to the set point for the PID controller. And that means that with the stick in the center, it means that we are not doing anything, and if the stick is out of nowhere in this position, that means that so much and so much of the degrees per second are requested from the quad. With the PID, with the rate, not the PID, that would be stupid. With the rate dynamics, we are changing this approach. Because what would happen if you would put a pseudo PID controller between the stick and the correct PID controller? What if you could modify of how the stick movement in time translates to the requested rotation rate of the flight controller of the drone? That would be something. EmuFlight Rate Dynamics allows you to set sensitivity, correction and the weight independently for the situations when the stick is in the center and when the stick is fully deflected. What is sensitivity, correction and weight? We will talk in the moment. The idea for having different behavior of the stick in this position and in this position is that, well, probably when you are doing a minor really adjustment when flying straight, you might want slightly different response of the quad than when you are doing a rapid maneuver like flippity floppy roll or something like that, when you run a full deflection of the stick. It's not, I know, to some extent this is similar to the expo, because expo handles gives you this opportunity to have very delicate response in the center and the rapid response when the stick is fully deflected. However, because rate dynamics is not only expo, is a different behavior in the center and in the out with the full stick deflection, it gives you more ways of modify your feeling. And you can modify the feeling with the sensitivity, correction and the weight. And in the beginning of the video I mentioned that this is almost like the PID controller, because like this is almost the PID controller. Sensitivity can be understood as the scalar of the stick position. So with the sensitivity store, you are just transferring the input to the output. But when in the center position sensitivity is set to 50, that means that only half of the movement, half of the position, half of the deflection will be transferred outside as the output. So one must say, but that doesn't make sense. I just lowered the rate on the center. How does that differ from the expo? It does not yet. Well, at least it differs slightly from the expo, because here comes the rest of the settings. Correction is almost like the I term. Correction is the element that when you took down some of the sensitivity of the stick in the center, the correction will slowly allow you in time to go back to the requested rate. So even if you lower the sensitivity in that center or in the full deflection position, immediately when you will move the stick to that position, the response will be slower. But thanks to the correction, the item, the error from the output and the expected output will grow in time, and correction will allow you to catch to the actual rate. So, are you following me with that? I know it might be hard, and it even took me quite a while to understand it. Sensitivity is the direct response of the rate dynamic, while the correction is how the rate dynamics over time correct to the missing or the overshoot, because you can have sensitivity above 100% and then the correction will slightly lower the response. And finally, there is a setting called the weight. The weight should be, it's equivalent, it's a determ. It's a derivative from the change of the position. And weight acts as a weight. Exactly, the name explains what is happening. It's an inertia. It's an element of the inertia. When you have the weight set to 0, you only have sensitivity and you only have correction. And if you move the stick, it will go to the sensitivity position and then correction will correct to the desired output. With the weight, we will have this additional inertia. The rate requested from the quad will not go there immediately. The weight will dampen the acceleration and, I don't want to say smoothen, but take more time for the target to reach. And as the result, you can have a completely, absolutely different feeling on the stick with the different rate dynamics applied. Bear in mind, I'm not saying that the rate dynamics is the best thing ever. I'm not saying that it's super required for everyone. However, I'm saying that it's the interesting way of modifying the set point, the requested rotation rate on the drone for different situations. Because you might want to have a different flying feeling when you are flying cinematic, when you are flying with the freestyle approach, or with flying on the racing approach. And rate dynamics to some extent allows you to overcome your own limitations, because it might help you, instead of moving your fingers in the correct speed to correct position, the rate dynamics might in some cases do it for you. So for example, the cinematic approach. When you are doing really a cinematic flight, you probably want that the teeny tiny adjustments on the stick in the center are indeed a teeny tiny super smooth adjustment on the center. But if you want to make the rapid turn because something is going on or just want to go back, you still want to have this rapid response without much of the dampening. To some extent, rate dynamics allows you to do it. And finally, we come to the question, do I like rate dynamics? I will be absolutely frank with you. I tried them. I tried all the community presets for the rate dynamics. I hated the cinematic preset, absolutely hated this. I was not able to fly with the Kabab's super cinematic because that was just too crazy for me. Freestyle was okay-ish, interesting feeling on the sticks, and the racing was more than fine. However, because I consider myself as the relatively good pilot, I have enough of the stick time in the air that more or less I know what I'm doing. I have my own flying style and I can fly with my setup both cinematic and non-cinematic, no problem. Every time you modify your stick feeling, you apply a different preset on the rate dynamics, you have to learn your quad to one more time, because it completely changes the feeling. And if you are used to some kind of the response, then it's gone. It's absolutely gone. You have to learn to fly this thing again from scratch. And it takes time. It takes time, and probably with enough of the time, I would be able to use the cinematic to do the cinematic. But because, like I said, I personally think that I can fly well enough. I'm not the world league, far from being a world league. However, I know what I'm doing in the air. And because I have those expectations and I have this level of skill, I was not really super much convinced that I like it. And to be honest, in most of the cases, I have not liked it. But like I mentioned before, if you do not have those expectations super high, and you are thinking that maybe you can modify your still feeling and change something, at least what you can do is you can give those presets a try. Because like I mentioned, yes, there are presets. The presets are in the EmuFlight repository wiki. You can go there, you can copy, you can apply, you can see how this thing is flying. And the least thing you can do is you can check. You can check how this affects your stick feeling. Maybe you will like it, maybe you will not like it. Cinematic presets are really special because they give you a super dampened feeling in the center. It's like you move the stick slightly, there's nothing, and then you flip over. So it's super special. However, with the racing preset, it was, yes, there was something in it. If I would probably spend much more time in the air with the racing preset, I think I might like it. I'm not 100% convinced, but I probably would like it at the all. And there's the freestyle, but the freestyle is a completely different story. So my suggestion, check it out. This is really the least you can do. Check out what dynamic rates offer you, because a lot of people in the EmuFlight world say that this is cool. And if it's cool, then it's cool, and there is probably a reason of people saying that this is cool. One more reason to check what EmuFlight offers. Maybe you will like it, maybe you will not like it, but if you try, you will know. You will not expect or assume that you don't like it, because it's just like with the seafood. Some say they like it, some say they do not like it, although they never ate it. And how do you know you do not like a shrimp on a mule or a mule if you never tried that? Interesting thought, right? So that's all for today with the rate dynamics. I'm porting this to iNav. I even ported this to iNav, but I have not yet decided if I will want to have it in iNav. Probably. Not 100% sure yet. That's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and until the next one. Bye bye.